It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege of interviewing the Browns head volleyball coach, Coach Taylor Virtue. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Super excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in coaching in college volleyball?
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in the gym. My mom was a coach. She coached high school volleyball all, my entire childhood. And so it was a huge piece of my life growing up. And I think from a really early age, I knew that I had a passion for it and wanted to figure out how I could kind of keep it a part of my life as I continued to grow, and played high school volleyball and club, and then went on to play collegiately. And really during college was when I identified that this was something I saw myself doing long term. And so I leaned on, the people around me, one of them being my college volleyball coach, Doug English. He was still is a huge mentor for me. And he helped me understand the landscape of the NCAA and really how to go about finding job opportunities and getting connected with the right people. And so I went on to be a grad assistant at Springfield College. And I would say, like I said, during college is when I really started to understand this was something I saw myself doing, but then grad school confirmed that for me. I loved every second of my time at Springfield and really figured out while I was there that this was the career I wanted to pursue.
What was that experience like going to Northwestern Nazareth and getting to play collegiate volleyball?
Yeah, Northwest Nazarene has a special place in my heart. Obviously, I loved my time there. I got to play 4 years of pretty competitive Division II volleyball, and I was fortunate enough to finish my career with a championship, which I think is pretty rare. As I've grown into coaching and just been in the sports world for the last decade, you start to realize how rare it is to win, how hard it is to win. And so being able to finish my senior year on a really high note was a big deal. But I think beyond that, those teammates are still my best friends. They were bridesmaids in my wedding. Those people mean a lot to me. And it's a fun story. My mom went to NNU and played volleyball. And before her, my grandma went to NNU. She didn't play volleyball, but there's a lot of legacy that exists there for me.
What was that experience like continuing that legacy, as you said, the family legacy of playing volleyball?
Yeah, it was really special. It's in my hometown. And so both my parents and my grandparents on both sides of my family got to be really involved in my experience as a college athlete, which again is something rare that not everybody gets to experience. And so it was just an incredible moment in time where we all got to celebrate something that we loved. And it was a really bright spot in NNU volleyball history as well. And so it was a fun moment for me to get to experience all of that at the same time.
How is that feeling like getting to put on that jersey and representing them?
Yeah, I miss it every day. I think that I love coaching, and I've come to a moment, especially now, right? I'm working my dream job, but for a long time and really early in my coaching career, I definitely was missing playing, and found so much motivation from remembering what it felt like to compete as an athlete. And I think that that's probably where most people's, drive starts as coaches. And so it was incredible. I mean, there's nothing like the rush of putting on a jersey and knowing you get to represent your school with your teammates and best friends and going, to compete. It's one of the most special moments I think any athlete can experience. And so it's a real privilege, not only to have done that, but to now get to be a part of that weekend after weekend every fall with my squad.
How is that experience like transitioning from being a player to getting into coaching and being a grad assistant for Springfield?
Yeah, I mean, I talked about it just a minute ago that so much of my motivation and excitement for coaching was really sparked by being an athlete and being a player. I've grown tremendously since then. And of course, now really love the coaching aspect of it. But early in my career, I think most young coaches think they know it all. And I certainly was not the exception to the rule. I thought I knew so much more than I actually did, but I was absolutely passionate about it and loved it. And it taught me a lot. I had another wonderful mentor, Maura Long, who's still the head coach at Springfield College, and she taught me so much about how to run a program, how to have hard conversations, how to really help develop young women, not just as athletes, but also as human beings. And I had not up to that point thought very much about that side of coaching. It was all X's and O's and all volleyball. But once I worked for her for a little bit, I had the opportunity to really see this thing from a more holistic standpoint. That is absolutely one of the reasons I am where I am today.
While being at Springfield and being a grad assistant, what was that experience like, getting that and seeing that experience of the Division II championship level?
Yeah, Springfield's actually Division III, but it was incredible. They are a really, really impressive athletics university, or college, I suppose. They produce great athletic teams, but they also produce, year after year, athletic trainers, sport admin, coaches. If there is a job within the sports industry, you will find a Springfield grad. And so I got to go to a place that cared deeply about investing in athletics and really making athletics and kind of the holistic version of what athletics gives people this really incredible experience. And so I could not have picked a better place to go to grad school. And Coach Long had up to that point really built a perennial powerhouse in the NUMEC. And so being able to come in and work for a program that was already so successful and just see what went into that day after day. I already mentioned it, but there's no doubt in my mind that I wouldn't be here if it weren't for that experience and just the knowledge that I gained, the experience that I had. We went to 2 Sweet 16s, and I'd be lying if I said, at least one of those Sweet 16 losses doesn't still sting a little bit. She knows what I'm talking about, but it was amazing. I mean, getting to play at that level is really special, no matter what division you're at.
How was that experience like, getting to coach on that level of going to the Sweet 16 when, as a player, you had that experience of competing in that level?
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, I got to play as an athlete. I was in the first round of the NCAA tournament. We lost in the first round, and so only had that one experience. Now, that in itself was a huge deal. We got to host the first round, which is a really big honor and one that we earned. But getting to coach in the Sweet 16 is something I'll never forget. And I feel incredibly fortunate that I got to do that so early in my career. In some ways, it set up an expectation for what this is all going to look like. And winning is, it's really demanding. There's no two ways about it, that you have to work pretty tirelessly to continue to be in positions to play meaningful matches at the end of a season. And yeah, I think if anything, getting to coach in 2 Sweet 16s, my first 2 years of coaching college volleyball, maybe gave me an unrealistic understanding of what winning looks like, but I think that it really shaped how I want to go after this job, this career, and go after it with my team. So it was amazing.
How was that experience like, getting to coach for St. Martin?
Yeah, St. Martin's was great. I got to move a little bit closer to home. I had gotten married just before taking that job, and so it was a really awesome move for our family to be back in Washington. My husband was in the Army at the time, stationed not far from St. Martin's, and St. Martin's is actually in the conference that I competed in as an athlete, and so special to get to go back. I felt like I had a ton of knowledge of that conference and that region, and really just understood what I was getting myself into. Had a couple of years of coaching under my belt, but in a much different situation than I was in with Springfield, right? Springfield was a powerhouse. They were winning year after year. St. Martin's much more in a building phase of their program. And so that gave me a little bit of a taste of what it looks like to really build a program and start from, not from scratch, but from a much different point than being expected to be in the Sweet 16. So it was incredible. Another great learning experience where I got to figure out, it doesn't matter who you are when it goes really well. What matters is who you are and who you decide to be when things aren't going really well. And so got to, it's kind of forged in that a little bit. And I think that if you can stick with coaching or anything really, when it's not as fun and exciting, you found the right thing. And so in a lot of ways, I think my 2 years at St. Martin's really proved to me that this is what I love. And I wanted to keep pursuing it, even though maybe the number of wins or accolades wasn't as, present as it had been the previous 2 seasons. But I still came away knowing that this was what I wanted to do.
What was that transition like for you, going from coaching on the Division 2 level and 3 level to then jumping to the Ivy League and being an assistant coach first?
Yeah, I think having the understanding of all different levels is really valuable. You kind of get a really well-rounded vision for what this thing is all about. And I think at the end of the day, being at the Division 2 and Division 3 level really prepared me for the Division 1 level, because at D2 and 3, you wear all the hats, right? You grind. You don't have as many resources, you don't have as many people, you don't have as much help. And so you do it all yourself. And I think that prepped me well to move into the D1 world and figure out how to do this well. I loved, my first 2 years here at Brown as an assistant. I think that I learned a ton and was given the opportunity to really have ownership of a lot of different pieces of our program. And I think most of that comes from the fact that I'd had experience doing those things at Springfield and St. Martin's and at 2 different divisions previous to my time at Brown. And so I think it prepared me really well. Of course, there was a little bit of a learning curve, making sure that I knew the different NCAA rules and everything that comes along with being at a Division 1 school. But I was ready for the workload and ready for what it was going to take to be successful here.
While as an assistant coach at Brown, what were some of the things that you were able to accomplish?
Yeah, my first season here at Brown, we had a pretty special year. We won the Ivy League in 2021, and it was a surprise, I think, not just for us a little bit, but for everybody. And I don't mean surprise as in we didn't know we were good. We knew we were good. We knew we were going to have a shot, but the previous season had been canceled due to COVID. And so nobody in the Ivy League had played for about 18 months. And anytime you take that much time off, I mean, there's question marks everywhere, right? About what every squad is going to look like. And the year previous to that, Brown had finished 6th in the league. And so there certainly wasn't a ton of people expecting us to land first. And honestly, we just had a really amazing year. We dealt with adversity really well. We learned together. We were incredibly young, but didn't allow that to affect the way that we competed. And so it was an unbelievable season. Like I said, we won the league. We won every single major postseason award offered in the Ivy League. My biggest accomplishment personally was we transitioned one of our athletes who had been an outside for her whole club and high school career into the libero role. She was kind of outpassing everybody in the first few weeks of preseason. And so we made the decision, based on some injuries and some other kind of positional adjustments that had happened, that we were going to move her into the libero role. And it was a little bit of a gamble, but it was the right thing to do in that moment. And she ended up winning Defensive Player of the Year in the Ivy League that season. And I think that ability to take somebody and teach them a new position and help them succeed was incredible. I mean, she and I worked hand in hand all year to get her to a point where she was really competent in a position she'd never played. So it was really fun to be able to do that and do it fast and find a lot of success really early in my first season here. And just really proud of not only that, but kind of the culture that we had around that season as well. It was really amazing.
During that season, as a coach, what was that experience like going to that championship and winning that championship for the Ivy League?
Yeah, so the Ivy League looked a little different. In 2021, we did not have an Ivy League tournament. So in order to win the league, we just had to win straight up regular season. We had to win the most matches. And so we went 13-1 in the Ivy League that season. And it, I say this all the time. I don't know if this is completely fair, but from my standpoint, it felt a little bit like magic. Like we just, of course, had some bumps in the road and had some adversity, but it didn't affect us very much. We just kind of rolled. And I think ton of credit to my boss at the time, Ahen Kim, for leading us. A ton of credit to that squad who had, multiple freshmen and multiple sophomores who were playing in their first Ivy League season starting. And we just were so ready to learn and figure it out. There was a hunger and an excitement about that season, especially because 2020 had been canceled, that gave us the ability to really do something special. So it's a season I will absolutely never forget. It brings a smile to my face thinking about what we were able to do that year. It was incredible.
What was that feeling like becoming a head coach for the first time and getting to take over the program from the previous coach?
Yeah, it was surreal. If you had told me, 5 years ago, or even less than that, 2 years ago, even during my time as an assistant here at Brown, that I would be standing or sitting in this chair doing this job, I would have told you were crazy. And I think part of that is due to just knowing how many incredible coaches there are in the NCAA. And so feeling like, am I actually going to be able to stack up there? And then also knowing I'm young. I was named head coach at Brown when I was 30, and that's a pretty it's a young age to be given this type of a role. And so taking over, I guess I'll talk a little bit about kind of the interview process and then into actually being named, but the interview process I loved. I've been through the interview process, of course, many times at every school I've been at. But at Brown, it was so fun in all reality. And I know that sounds crazy because interviews aren't generally super enjoyable, but it was really cool for me to get to be interviewed by all of these people that I already knew and to share with them who I saw this program becoming and really what my vision for this thing was. And so I loved it. It was so fun. And I also felt a little bit like an underdog in some ways. And I think that that's a really good place to be, not just as a person applying for a big time job, but also as a competitor, is to be an underdog. It's a good feeling. So I went into that with, of course, a little bit of hope, but really just a lot of joy and excitement about the experience. And I knew we'd figure it out if it didn't pan out. And then being named was one of the best days of my life. I'll never forget feeling really proud of myself and also really excited and incredibly grateful that Brown and my boss, Grace Calhoun, and the rest of her team had decided to trust me with this program. This team is really special to me. So I was absolutely thrilled to get to stay with them and go fight for some more Ivy League championships.
After getting announced to become the next head coach, what was that feeling like when you heard the announcement? And what was that feeling like the first time you stepped onto that court as a head coach?
Yeah. It was incredible. I mean, I already spoke a lot to kind of what it felt like to be named, but stepping onto the court for the first time, I technically stepped onto the court for the first time as a head coach in the spring. And so got to get some of those first match jitters out in a little bit less intense match situation, which was really nice to get to, practice what is a timeout going to look like with me as the head coach? What is a pregame going to look like? All of those things that coaches do, but until you're in this chair, you don't think as much about the little intricacies of those days. But then getting to do it for the first time last fall as a head coach, it's such a special day. And the thing that made it so special outside of the fact that I got to compete with my team, I had so much confidence in them. I knew we were ready. I knew they were prepared. They're incredibly talented, and we had worked really hard up to that point to be ready for preseason. But I'd never been a head coach in a match before. And so I was like, oh man, like in this situation, I'm the question mark. I'm the one that nobody knows exactly what this is going to look like. But one of the best pieces of that day was all throughout the morning, leading into the afternoon and into the evening of that first match. Um, People throughout our department kept stopping into my office. I wasn't in the office, and leaving me notes, leaving me gifts, leaving me cards, and just encouraging me, honestly. And it was so special to feel not just supported by, my family, my husband, my friends, my team, but to feel supported by my department and my colleagues, the other coaches in the building. And so it was really special, and something that I hope to be able to pass on, as I'm certainly not a veteran, but have coached a season now and would love to encourage, a young, similar aged first time head coach into doing this thing, because I think that support never goes unnoticed when people know, hey, this is a big day for you and we're with you. It's a big deal.
For you as a head coach, what was that feeling like the first time you got a win as a head coach?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm being honest, it was like the least interesting part of the day. Like I said, my team was and is so talented and impressive. I had literally no doubt that we were walking away from that moment with a win. I try not to think too much about like what that means really. Like it's all about them. It's all about each individual year going after it with that squad you've got. And so it was special, of course, but I think I knew we were walking away with a win that day because of how prepared and ready we were. And so it was about the beginning of a long season and the beginning of us fighting for the opportunity to compete for an Ivy League championship. And that's how I saw it then, and that's how I'm always going to see it, that it's about those guys getting to be in meaningful moments. And that was just the first step of that last fall.
Can you talk about the culture that you've helped to build for the volleyball program at Brown?
Yeah, I think culture is a really important piece of coaching, if not the most important piece of coaching. I think winning comes out of culture, not the other way around. And so we've worked really hard over the last, years to really figure out how to develop a culture that is healthy and is growing and can evolve as we change, and as, classes graduate and classes come in, we want some of those pieces of who we are to really remain the same. And so I think there are a few things that matter a lot when it comes to building culture. Leadership is one of those, and obviously that starts with me. And so I've found that the way that I lead, the way that's most authentic to me, I think is through really loving and serving the people around me. And I think so much of that comes down to building trust. I've talked to my staff a million times about the fact that we're going to have the ability to coach these guys tough and to push them and ask for more appropriately when that's what's necessary, but only if they trust us. And so we've worked really hard to develop great relationships, 1 through 19 on our squad. And I think the foundation for us is that we take care of each other, that it's about finding ways to win, finding ways to get better. But at the end of the day, no matter what happened between the lines, we're going to walk out of the gym with our arms around each other, and we're gonna take care of each other. And so I think when you have a culture that is grounded in that type of understanding, you can sleep well at night knowing, all right, we got to get a little bit better at this and that, we got to side out a little better, we got to serve a little tougher, whatever it is. But I know that we love each other, we take care of each other, and we've shown over the last couple of seasons that winning can come out of that. So, yeah, I think I mean, there's so much to talk about when it comes to culture, but that's a little snapshot of what we've got going on here at Brown.
What is it like getting to coach against some of those teams in the Ivy League like Yale, Harvard, Princeton, and Cornell?
Yeah, I mean, the Ivy League is the oldest conference in the world, in the conference or in the country. It's the first ever athletics conference in the NCAA. And so getting to coach in this league is in it's incredible. I mean, honestly, it not very many people can say that they're at a school that's older than the Constitution of the United States, but I am, and I think there's just such a rich history at not just Brown, but all 8 of the Ivy League schools. And I really appreciate that about this place. It's not lost on me what a privilege it is to get to represent, an institution with this much prestige and that has a very recognizable name and a very recognizable conference. And I think college volleyball is really special. College athletics is really special for one of the reasons being that in every conference, you get to know each other really well, right? We got 8 schools in our league, and that's never going to change. And we know each other. Each team knows each other. Each staff knows each other. And so there's a lot of friendship, of course, that comes along with that. But there's also so much competition as you get to know those teams on the other side of the net really, really well. And so I think it's just such a special experience to get to do that. And then beyond that, the ability for my athletes to compete at a really high level, playing Division I volleyball, and then also to leave Brown with a degree that's going to set them up for a ton of success in life it's really amazing. And I feel confident recruiting to this place, knowing that if you choose Brown, you're going to choose a place that is going to, set you up for so much success. You're going to have a great experience and you're going to win a lot of volleyball games.
What is that home game atmosphere like when teams like Yale and Princeton come to your home facility?
Yeah, like I said, just that history is a really big deal. And so we get some pretty good crowds for big matches, and it's a blast. I mean, it's electric. People love to cheer for and against Ivy League opponents. And it's really fun. I think that the ability to pack these very old venues is really special. None of them are massive, and so we get a ton of people into these gyms, and there's some matches I'll never forget, that's for sure. I also think the communities that we're in, especially in New England, people love volleyball. People, adults play volleyball competitively, not, starting as children and then all the way through their lives. And so there's just so much community support as well. And it's been fun for me to be a part of that and really learn the New England volleyball community. And I think Brown kind of being central to that geographically has been really special for our team. And we're excited to pack this place here in a couple weeks.
What does that recruitment process look like for those prospective student athletes? And as a head coach, what do you look at in those prospective student athletes?
Yeah, there's so much to look at, right? We're making a 4-year decision about who somebody's going to be as a volleyball player, who somebody's going to be as a teammate, who somebody's going to be on the court, off the court, whatever, is required of them in any moment. We are looking at all of that. And so I mean, recruiting it's a sometimes demanding and difficult process, especially for young volleyball players. There's a lot of pressure involved right now. And at least in my corner of recruiting, we really attempt to be just incredibly authentic in the way that we go about the process, transparent, and help them understand, what we're looking for and who we are. And when people come to through the recruiting process with us and consider Brown as their home, we really try to give them a vision for what it would be like to play for us. I think that the recruiting process happens differently for everybody. That's a really important key as any young volleyball player is trying to figure out their home for 4 years. But yeah, we're looking for people that we can imagine being in a gym with and going to battle with for 4 years. And then hopefully people that are also going to be really proud to represent Brown, not just for those 4 years, but for the 40 after that as well.
As a head coach, what is it like seeing those freshmen put on that jersey for the first time for Brown versus seeing those seniors put it on for the last time?
Yeah, for the freshmen, it's such a blast because we've been through the recruiting process. We've built a relationship and feels like it's coming to fruition. We did all this work to get you here and to have you in our gym and to put that jersey on and be standing on the end line preparing for a match is really fun and special. And something I look forward to every season. And then for the seniors, man, it's emotional, and we try to keep the main thing that we got to go out and take care of business. Even for the last time, it's about winning, but there's no doubt that those last few matches are incredible in so many ways, and if it's the culmination of not just all of those years of club and high school volleyball, but also their 4 years at Brown and all of the work they've put in. And I think the life of a student athlete, especially in an Ivy League institution, is incredibly difficult. They're busy, their schedules are wild, and they manage so much so well. And so to see them put that jersey on for the last time is yeah, it's emotional. It's a moment that you never think is actually going to come. You think they'll get to stay with you forever. They think they'll get to stay forever, but all good things come to an end, and it's also, you know, filled with a lot of pride about all of the work and the moments we've been together through. Just so many memories culminated into those last few moments.
As a head coach, what's it like seeing those freshmen and seniors achieve those big milestones in their careers?
Yeah, I mean, milestones are great. Accolades are awesome. I think all of that kind of is second to how is our team performing, and are we at the level that we want to be at. I think any personal accolade is a signal to, you know, of what the team is accomplishing. So no doubt we love that stuff, but I think at the end of the day, those accolades just help us understand if we're on the right track of, are we going after this the right way? Are we getting better in the right ways? Are we training and improving in the right ways, or do we need to adjust? So we don't put too much stock in the personal stuff, although of course always happy for them when those things come, and excited when they get to experience that type of recognition. But it's all about the team at the end of the day.
As a coach, what is it like seeing those players going into college coaching or coaching after their playing career or even getting into professional volleyball?
Yeah, I haven't had too many go on to coach yet, as I'm still relatively young in this career, but I mean, it's so special. I'm certainly here because I had some wonderful coaches and loved playing for them. And so anytime you can inspire someone to go do what you're doing is pretty cool. And I, although can't recommend too many of my athletes at Brown here go into coaching, at least not immediately. They should all go use those really impressive degrees that they have. But I think that really for me, it's about encouraging my athletes to go do whatever they're excited about and passionate about, and being a cheerleader for them in all of that is really, really exciting. And I would love for someone at some point to eventually end up in coaching, but I also think I really just want them to end up happy, healthy, and successful.
What are some of your future plans for the program at Brown?
Yeah, I mean, there's some expectation that we're at the top of this conference, and that is exactly what I want for us and what I will continue to work for us. I mean, we won the league in 21 and lost in a championship match in both 22 and 23. So we have gotten ourselves to the point of being in meaningful moments at the end of a season, which is the goal. Now we want to be not just in the meaningful moment, but winning that meaningful moment. And I think that we have the right people to do it. And so much of that will be about how well do we take care of business and have the right people and the right team available at the end of November. So that we're in those meaningful matches. And then, I mean, long term, I think Brown is such an incredible place. And so when I have the opportunity to recruit athletes here, I really am sharing my vision and my dream for this place and this program in a way that I think is possible, right? I think that Brown should be at the top of this conference year after year, and we're gonna, like I said, continue working to keep that the way that it is right now, and hopefully, like I said, win some of those meaningful matches. But yeah, I think beyond that, really a marker for success for me is do I have athletes that graduate from this place and then want to keep coming back and want to keep being involved, and really growing that alumni presence and alumni base is something that is really meaningful to me. And so we're going to keep building that, but I mean, our plans are to keep pushing until we are exactly where we want to be. And really the work's never done, right? It's very cyclical. Coaching is very cyclical. So we get done with one thing and we got to go get the next one. When you win, you get rewarded with more hard work. So that's where we're at.
What advice would you give those incoming freshmen entering their first year of college volleyball?
Yeah, I think two things. Love every moment. It goes really fast. And any senior, anybody who's graduated from college will tell you that it goes faster than you can possibly imagine that it could. And it's a really special time where you get to figure out who you are, who you want to be, what you love. You make the best friends that you'll have for the rest of your life. And so love every moment. And then I think the second thing, which this is going to sound so incredibly coach-like of me, is you got to take care of your body. This thing's demanding. And so really managing your load, right? As a volleyball player, as a student, as a human, how can you take care of yourself? Not just mentally, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, all of it, as we all want to be at our best, but it takes a lot of work to stay at your best. And so I think that's a big deal. And I guess the last thing I'll say is don't be afraid to ask for help. I think college is one of the times in your life when everybody around you wants you to succeed and wants you to achieve whatever it is you want to achieve. And you have so many resources, so many people cheering for you, helping you, willing to figure it out with you. So taking advantage of that stuff, I think is really valuable and can only, enhance your experience as a college athlete.
What advice would you give those college athletes out there looking to get started in playing in professional volleyball, like Athletes Unlimited or going the US route to go to the Olympics?
Yeah, I think it's incredible that we have some US options for our athletes to stay home and play professional volleyball. I think that anybody looking to get into that should be willing to do whatever role is available. So whether that be a starter or a practice player, you got to be willing to be to fill any of those roles in order to get where you want to go. I think that it's similar to, making the transition from high school to college. It's that same thing. Like, are you willing to come in and be a serving sub? Are you willing to come in and just be a practice player? Or are you, not going to be at your best if those are the roles that you're going to fill? So I think being willing to take on any role that's available is a really big deal. But I would also say it's more possible for people to do this now than it's ever been before. And so putting yourself out there and being willing to try and maybe fail, but to go for it is really special. And being able to play professional volleyball, whether it's in the United States or abroad, is something that I think is more available for my athletes than it ever has been. And I'm excited to see some of these guys go after it.
What advice would you give those assistant coaches out there looking to get started in coaching in college volleyball?
Oh, that's a good question. Coaching is the best job in the world, in my opinion, but it also requires a lot of work, a lot of grind. I think similar to what I just said about being willing to do whatever, role is available to you as a player. I think that's true of coaches as well. Don't be afraid to, or don't be too big to do the small stuff. Like, there's just so much that it takes to put a season together, to put a program together, and you have to be able to be willing to grind a little bit and maybe not make as much money, or maybe not be exactly where you want to be, so that you can ultimately land in a place that you want to be. And I think that's so much of what my very young career has been, is I moved around a lot. And I took what was available to me, and I worked hard to build good relationships. And I certainly wasn't perfect through this whole process, but I was willing to do those, small jobs and small things in order to learn and be in the room with people who were doing really impressive things. And that has served me really well. And so say just, be willing to grind and do whatever it takes to get where you want to go. And I mean, at the end of the day, this industry is so much about relationships and making sure that the people that you work for and with, like working for and with you. that you guys can build something special and leave each other knowing that those people might be the reason someday you get another job. I think relationships are such a big piece of this.
What advice would you give those coaches out there looking to become head coaches and building their own program and legacy?
I don't know if I'm qualified to give advice on that. I feel like in so many ways I was given an opportunity, and I was in the right place at the right time and knew the right people. And of course, I'd worked really hard to do that. But I'm not sure that I have a ton of advice other than maybe just to keep being yourself. I think that's the thing I've found, that my team responds best to me when I'm being authentic and being me, that they work hard for me, especially when they know that I'm coming in confidently, guiding them the right direction. So I guess, being yourself, being confident in that, and just really, I mean, the other thing, and I say this to my staff all the time, we're all young. My whole staff is young, and I tell them frequently, we will never, lose or be in a bad situation because we're young. We're going to be the most prepared, the most professional, the most ready for the moment, regardless of our age. And so I guess I would say that has been really, really helpful for us, knowing like we're walking into gyms with storied head coaches, and we want to go up against those guys. It's a privilege to compete against coaches that have been in this league and in this industry for, decades. But that's not our story, and that's okay. We can still find success in that if we take ourselves seriously enough, but really prepare and be professional for whatever we're going to face.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with the program?
Oh, love it. So Brown UVB is our Instagram handle. Would love to get some follows. Brown Volleyball is a special place, and we got a lot of things coming this fall that are going to be incredible to watch. So that's where you can find us. And then you can find me on Instagram if you look up Taylor J. Virtue. That's my handle, or maybe it's just Taylor Virtue. I'm not sure. You can find me. I'm tagged all over the place on Brown Volleyball. So, but yeah, thank you so much, Brandon, for having me. It's been amazing to chat about my coaching journey and get to share a little bit about Brown Volleyball.
Thank you again, Coach Taylor Virtue, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thank you.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Taylor Virtue, for your interview, and best of luck in your future at Brown.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.